An Assortment of Quotes by Carl Jung. Even a happy life cannot be without a measure of darkness, and the word happy would lose its meaning if it were not balanced by sadness. It is far better to take things as they come, along with patience and equanimity. Your vision will become clear only when you can look into your own heart. Who looks outside dreams. Who looks inside awakes. One looks back with appreciation to the brilliant teachers, but with gratitude to those who touched our human feelings. The curriculum is so much necessary raw material, but warmth is the vital element for the growing plant and for the soul of the child. As far as we can discern, the sole purpose of human existence is to kindle a light in the darkness of mere being. We cannot change anything until we accept it. Condemnation does not liberate, it oppresses. Knowing your own darkness is the best method for dealing with the darkness of other people. Where love rules, there is no will to power. And where power predominates, there love is lacking. The one is the shadow of the other. Knowledge rests not upon truth alone, but upon error also. In all chaos there is a cosmos. In all disorder, a secret order. We should not pretend to understand the world only by the intellect. The judgment of the intellect is only part of the truth. The shoe that fits one person pinches another. There is no recipe for living that suits all cases. It all depends on how we look at things, and not how they are in themselves. Children are educated by what the grown-up is, and not by his talk. The greatest and most important problems of life are all fundamentally insoluble. They can never be solved, but only outgrown. Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. The healthy man does not torture others. Generally, it is the tortured who turn into torturers. Understanding does not cure evil, but it is a definite help, inasmuch as one can cope with a comprehensible darkness. We are born at a given moment, in a given place, and, like vintage years of wine, we have the qualities of the year and of the season of which we are born. Astrology does not lay claim to anything more. There is no birth of consciousness without pain. The least of things with a meaning is worth more in life than the greatest of things without it. Through pride, we are ever deceiving ourselves, but deep down below the surface of the average conscience, a still, small voice says to us, something is out of tune. The debt we owe to the play of imagination is incalculable. Follow that will and that way which experience confirms to be your own. It is a fact that cannot be denied. The wickedness of others becomes our own wickedness because it kindles something evil in our own hearts. Mistakes are, after all, the foundations of truth, and if a man does not know what a thing is, it is at least an increase in knowledge if he knows what it is not. Show me a sane man, and I will cure him for you. Often the hands will solve a mystery that the intellect has struggled with in vain. The word belief is a difficult thing for me. I don't believe. I must have a reason for a certain hypothesis. Either I know a thing, and then I know it. I don't need to believe it. Sometimes, indeed, There is such a discrepancy between the genius and his human qualities that one has to ask oneself whether a little less talent might not have been better. A human being would certainly not grow to be 70 or 80 years old if this longevity had no meaning for the species. The afternoon of human life must also have a significance of its own and cannot be merely a pitiful appendage to life's morning. If one does not understand the person, one tends to regard him as a fool. If there is anything that we wish to change in the child, we should first examine it and see whether it is not something that could be better changed in ourselves. A man who has not passed through the inferno of his passions has never overcome them. We deem those happy who from the experience of life have learnt to bear its ills without being overcome by them. When an inner situation is not made conscious, it appears outside as fate. Shrinking away from death is something unhealthy and abnormal, which robs the second half of life of its purpose. Resistance to the organized mass can be effected only by the man who is as well organized in his individuality as the mass itself. Man needs difficulties. They are necessary for health. Who has fully realized that history is not contained in thick books, but lives in our very blood? A psychoneurosis must be understood, ultimately, as the suffering of a soul which has not discovered its meaning.